Okay, so since we're doing distance learning, I really want to try to do the speech as if we're in the classroom, and make it more realistic. So the first part of this is to just kind of like think about past books we were assigned to read and what should and shouldn't be on the curriculum, I guess, basically. And so freshman year I was in advanced English, and then sophomore and junior year I was just in regular English. So half the books that the class would have read I really didn't read. There are a few that I'm like, I don't even remember, or there are a few that I kind of like skimmed through and didn't really read, and they were regrets because I went back and read those books, and I'm like, wow, those were actually really good books. Haley, you shouldn't have sold yourself short. And the first book I actually have right here, this just kind of worked out perfectly. Great Expectations. This book, this book is something else. I really had no clue what they were saying at all in it. The annotations I have were literally just because we needed annotations for points, and I made some up. But once we watched the movie, it was an amazing movie, and I went back and read the book, and it all made sense. And for me, I never want to see like a movie or TV show made off of a book until I read that book. But sometimes, you know, you just gotta watch it first because you have that book and it's just kind of sitting there, and you're like, maybe I should watch it first, get an understanding, and then read it even though I know the ending. I'm not too big on spoilers. I really could care less. So this was freshman year. Sophomore year, I don't really remember much. I was with Duryea. So we read, one that really sticks out is Flowers for Algernon. And I loved that book. That book really just hit home for me. For some reason, it just really clicked for what sophomore year Haley was going through. Then junior year, the one that sticks out to me the most, there are two. So Great Gatsby, I would pull it out, but my sister has it. And Great Gatsby, just, I really related to Jay Gatsby, and that might sound insane, but with life, I feel like all these books are thrown my way at the perfect timing for me. There's never a book that hasn't been at that perfect timing for me. And The Great Gatsby was no exception. I really just felt in a place of longing for someone that I know I could never achieve, and I would try to be there for them. And I just really like related to Jay. The moment he lost me was when, like, the whole murder, you know, that's when he lost me. But overall, I just really love that book. And then another one was When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. This was an amazing book. It wrecked me. It's so worn down, and you can tell I literally put my best effort into this book. This book was amazing from start to finish, and this was one that Miss Christ, now Mrs. McCready, wanted the class to read. This was her book that she chose, and there's just not enough emotions to describe this book. It was an amazing, absolutely stunning book, start to finish, and it wrecked me when you could tell the subtle change from Paul, who passed away, to his wife's writing to finish the book. And yeah, this was it. It was just amazing, and it, not enough good words. And then we get to senior year, the best year of books of all. And right here I have the 3 books that we were assigned to read from you, Miss Thorburn. We'll start off with Just Mercy. This book I recommend to everyone. I've had pretty much everyone read it in my family. This is definitely an amazing book to read, and I think so many more students should be reading this book, not just the lucky students that get to embrace you. And I say this all the time, and this was the one case that, like, they were all gut-wrenching, but Evan Miller's case just really, it really bothered me, and tears are starting to form. So we're just gonna set that down. Then we're gonna talk about Unbroken. We already know, we've discussed this so many times. This book comes back so many times in this class, and it was just an amazing book. My grandfather is actually a very big history buff, so I made him read it, and he cried. So This book definitely is an inspiration. Set that to the side. Then there's Salt to the Sea, which I read to compare to Unbroken, and this was just an amazing book. This was recommended to me by Mrs. Moore. If you're seeing a theme, I like to either be recommended books or recommend the books to other people. But yes, Salt to the Sea was an amazing book. I think more students should read it. It shouldn't necessarily be assigned, but I think more should read it. And this brings me to my book that I decided to do for the one that got away. This book kept coming up. It was on a lot of lists of teachers throughout the year of books that we could read for when we were assigned an independent book. And I never wanted to read it, and I never wanted to give this book the satisfaction of me reading it. And I finally just let go and let this book engulf me. And once again, like I mentioned earlier, this book was thrown to me at the perfect time in my life. This is gonna get emotional, but after the passing of my great-grandfather, I was just really lost, and I turned to books. I read some amazing gut-wrenching books that I literally passed on to you, Thorburn, because I think they're just so amazing, and I hope that one day you'll think back when you're looking at a student about that book and recommend that book to them, because all the books I've read have changed me. But Looking for Alaska, I always thought was just some, like, oh, it's just a little book, like, it's not anything challenging, it's nothing that I would want to read. And I picked it up as an Easter present for myself because my mom let me pick out some books for my Easter basket. And I didn't even notice it was made into a show, but I watched the show after, and after I read the book, and it was just an amazing, this book should be read by everyone, but I don't think it should be assigned to read. I feel like it's one of the books that you just kind of hand to a student, like, here, I think this is going to help you, especially in a time of grieving, because that's a main theme in this book is grieving, and another theme that you wouldn't think would coincide with grieving, but living for yourself. So I have a few quotes here I have highlighted. Now it's the struggle to find them, and I would do this in class anyway, so give me the time to look for them. But on page 5, when he starts to want to go to boarding school, his parents are like, why? And his dad's like, oh, it's because of me. And he said, hold on. I said, I went into my dad's study and found his biography of Francois Rabelais, and it kind of skips down, so you'll see. So it kind of skips down to there, and it says, so this guy, I said, standing in the doorway of the living room, Francois Rabelais, he was his poet, and his last words were, I go to seek a great perhaps. And I read the back of the book, of course, before I had my mom get it, and for me, my great perhaps completely just, it's that scene where you're in a field, and it's so beautiful, there's a creek nearby, the sun's shining down on you. For me, I'm always in a white sundress, and I'm just spinning around laughing and floating with the earth, and everything just flies away. So I was really like, yeah, this is gonna be a perfect book. And his obsession with last words really struck me, because once again, this is going to be real because this is what I would do in class. Death has just really been on my mind, and the last words I ever heard my grandfather say were, I love you, because after that he really didn't talk. So it was just a really special moment, and I think remembering someone's last words really sets the tone for their life. Woo! We're not crying. We're not crying. And the next quote, let me find it while I'm getting rid of the tears. I can't find the one in the middle. There it is. This is after Alaska's death, and when she died, I was completely thrown for a whirl because she very much was the person that was leading everyone to kind of find their great perhaps. She was on board 110%. She was willing. She was mysterious. She was someone that you would look at her and you would just feel at home. So on page 149, it says, "No, the dreams are terrible. In my dreams, she doesn't even look like herself anymore. I don't even remember what she looked like." That just really kind of stuck with me because I feel like after someone's gone, you really just kind of sit there and think, and your mind can distort images of people. So that was definitely a very grieving moment in the book when they just kind of stopped and was like, she's not the same, she's gone. So really just once again, I'm not crying, I'm wiping the tears, we're continuing. On page 213, this is towards the end-ish, they're driving and they happen upon a road and they feel glass like hit the tires, and so they say at the bottom, "And poof, we are through the moment of her death. We are driving through the place that she could not drive through, passing on the asphalt she never saw, and we are not dead. We are not dead. We are breathing and we are crying and now slowing down and moving back into the right lane." I feel like that was the moment when their grief kind of was the most necessary. When their grief made sense to everything and to why everything happened. You definitely hit that point in life when you're like, this is the moment I was waiting for. The moment when all the weight just gets lifted off. So definitely, woo! Thorburn, if you're watching this, I know you're crying too. It's okay, we can cry together. I'm sure the class would be crying with us. This definitely wasn't going to be a typical speech for me because I knew it would get emotional, so we're good. I definitely think, kind of reflecting back on what I said, when someone recommends a book to you, you read that book and that book sticks with you. And then I see someone going through the same thing I was going through and I hand them that book and they're kind of like, what is going on? And then they read it and you get the book back and there's more tears than you left in there. So I definitely just think that teachers especially have that sense of what's going on with a student's life. So that's why I always recommend books to teachers, and I think the moment that I realized my impact was getting out there was I saw this random girl that I have never seen before holding a book that I gave to Miss Christ, and it's the same book I gave to you, Thorburn, Holding Up the Universe. And it said Miss Christ on it because she went out and got a copy and she put it in her library and students started picking it up. And that's kind of what I want for this book. I want this book to help people the way it helped me. And I think in order for a person to truly want to read a book, it cannot be assigned to someone. I struggled a lot with assigning books in class because I didn't want to read them because I felt like I had to, and I was like, this book is gonna suck because I have to read it and I'm not gonna get into it. But there are those rare occasions where I just got into a book. But I think it's very much a book that you should just keep sticking on that recommendation list, so then maybe one day they'll see it and be like, why do I feel this connection to this book? Why is this book stuck in my head? And if you want to cry even more, I do recommend watching the Hulu show on it. They did an amazing job at character development and kind of filling in the gaps to make it a TV show that the book necessarily wouldn't be able to give. And I hear it's already assigned for a second season, so I absolutely cannot wait for that. But yeah, so this book really just made me think about the great perhaps and how to achieve it and how to live basically and how to find the new normal in grief. Okay, we're gonna end on that note. It's 15 minutes long. Don't sue me. If you make it to the end, you're a trooper. Thanks for listening to me ramble about this book.